Welcome to PurelyHR. In this video, we're going to take you through everything you need to know to get started as an administrator in time off. You can use the time codes in the description below to skip to a certain section. To begin, let's look at how time off policy information is configured. All of this information can be found by going to the Settings menu. We'll start with time off types. There are two kinds of time off types, deductible and non-deductible. Deductible time off types are those that have a balance of time that users can take from. This would include vacation, PTO, sick, personal, etc. Non-deductible types are the kind that do not have a balance but can be used for anything you want to track or share on the calendar. For example, unpaid time off, working from home, travel, etc. Once the time off types are created, the deductible types are then taken and put into policies. To view your time off policies, under the Settings menu, click on Time Off Policies. Typically, time off policies are created based on length of service. However, your account may be different. In this example, the three policies that are set up are awarded at 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years of service. Clicking on the Settings button will allow us to view and edit how a policy is configured. Within a policy, you can have multiple time off types. Let's have a look at how PTO and sick are configured in the 1 year policy. Click the Edit button to view how a time off type is configured. The calendar year renewal is when this policy will renew. The yearly allowance is how much time an employee with this policy applied to them is allowed to have. The default balance is what will be added to the balance when the policy is applied for the first time or by a length of service accrual. Upon renewal is the action that will take place on the date set in the calendar year renewal. For this policy, PTO time accrues. It is set to accrue every month on the first day of the month by 0.834 of a day, and it will accrue until the allowance is full. Finally, restrictions determine how the employees can use the time. Allow pre-book means they will be able to book the time in advance as long as they will accrue it by the end of the year. This will result in a negative balance. Looking at sick time, we see that things are a little bit different. It does renew on January 1st. They are allowed 5 days of sick per year. The default balance is set to full, so as soon as the time off policy is applied, they'll receive the full 5 days in their balance. When the policy renews on January 1st, all unused time will be removed and they'll receive the full 5 days up front. And the restriction, balance required, means that they have to have time in their balance in order to take time off. Since the policies are based on length of service, the PTO allowance in the subsequent policies will increase and the accrual rate will be adjusted accordingly. That way, users get more time the longer they stay with the company. To apply the information in a policy to a user, click on the Apply button to the right of the policy, select the user's name, and click Apply. Note that under the name of the user is the last policy that was applied to them. Now we'll look at length of service accruals, which can be found under the Settings menu. Length of service accruals, specifically policy change, is what automatically moves a user from one policy to another. Once again, your account may be set up differently from this example. Click on the Settings button to the right to view how the policy change is configured. In this example, we've added our 5 and 10 years policies. On the first line, after a user completes 60 months of service, they'll receive the 5 years policy on their anniversary. After they complete 120 months, they'll receive the 10 years policy on their anniversary. Sometimes policies don't change on the anniversary. Instead, they might change in the calendar year. If so, you'll see Reward On set to calendar year renewal. In this example, They'll be given the PTO 5 years policy on the January 1st of the year they'll reach 60 months. Length of service accruals need to be assigned to users so that time off knows who should be eligible to have their policy changed. Click the Assign button to the right, check the names of the users to assign it to, then click Apply. Now let's change gears and look at a few of the most commonly used reports. We'll start by having a look at the Time Off Summary. The Time Off Summary is a report that every user can see for themselves. The 3 columns that show by default are Allowance, Balance, and Pending. You can add others by going to your account settings. Allowance shows how much time a user is allowed to have for the year. The balance is how much time the user has left to use. This number includes all future requests. Pending is the amount of time that has been requested but not yet approved. At the right side, you'll see the total amount of used time for that year. The total is the amount of time the user has been away from the office, and deducted is the amount of time that was actually deducted from their balance. Depending upon your account settings or other circumstances, these 2 numbers may not necessarily match. You can click on the number under Deducted to view all the requests that are included in that number. Finally, at the bottom of the report, you can view a history of approved, pending, rejected, or canceled requests. If you want to view the details of any of these requests, click on the magnifying glass at the right side. Next, let's look at the Time Off Details report. This is a great report to run when you want to see information on time off taken during a specific period of time. You can select if you want to run the report for certain users, departments, or offices, or even certain time off types. Select the date range you want to view the information for, or use the Quick Date selector. Check off if you want to view approved, pending, declined, or canceled requests, and click Generate Report. This report will show the date of the request, the name of the user, their department, the type of request, the duration of the request, the time frame, the date submitted, status, and if time was deducted. At the top right, you can export the report to PDF, CSV, or print. Lastly, let's look at the Balance Allowance report. Similar to the Time Off Totals report, you can choose which users you want to run this on, as well as which time off types. Choose the date that you want to see balances for. You can choose today's date or any date in the past. When you click Generate Report, the balances and allowances will be displayed. The number on the left is the balance as of that date, and the number on the right is the allowance. Next, we're going to look at user settings. This can be found by going to Manage Users and User List. From the user list, click on the Settings button to the right of a user. Under the Allowance tab, we see information from the time off policy that has been applied to this user. You're able to change any of this information for this user alone by clicking on the Edit button to the right of the time off type. Under the Balance tab, you can make changes to the user's balance. Click the Edit button to the right of the time off type you want to change the balance for. Then you can add or subtract hours or days from the balance. It's always a good idea to put a reason for changing the balance in the message to user, even if it's not emailed to them. The reason for this is that this reason will show up in the audit trail. If your policies contain accruals, you can view information about the accrual applied to this user by clicking on Balance Accrual. You can even edit any information about this accrual specifically for this user by clicking the Edit button to the right. If you want to see if a length of service accrual has been applied to a user, or even if you want to change it, click on Service Accrual. Finally, we're going to look at the calendar. As an administrator, you're able to see the time off requests for all users on your account. There are 3 kinds of time off requests: full day requests, multi-day requests, and partial day requests. When a request has a question mark on it, it is a pending request, meaning that it has not yet been approved. It is typically the task of the users with the manager role to approve time off requests, but you are able to bypass them and approve it yourself as an administrator. To approve a request, click on the pending request on the calendar or from the list of pending requests to the right to view it, then change the status at the bottom. If you would like to cancel or edit a request, whether approved or pending, select the request from the calendar and click Cancel or Edit depending upon what you want to do. There are 2 other types of requests that you can approve depending upon how your account is set up. Banked time requests are requests employees have submitted to add time to their balance. This is usually due to working overtime and they are requesting time in lieu. Click on the request from the list to reject, cancel, or approve the request. If you approve it, you will see where the time will be transferred to be able to leave a note for the employee and even multiply the time if need be. The last type of requests to approve are cancellation requests. In the same way as banked time, click on the request from the list, then you can approve the cancellation of the time off request. If you have any questions, feel free to email our customer success team at support@PurelyHR.com. Want to start a free 21-day trial of time off? Go to PurelyHR.com to get started. Thanks for watching and enjoy Purely HR.